Deborah Bishop, nice to see you.
Hey girl, hey Miss Gilli Moon, how are you?
I am very good. I'm very good. Thanks for coming into my space today.
I am happy to be here.
I love your background. That is so nice.
Thank you. It's actually just a divider. I have like a whole other room behind me, but this is like I found it at where did I find it? Online at Target.
I love it. For those who can't,
Fabric.
for those who can't see, because a lot of people listen to the podcast, do you want to describe it?
It's a room divider basically, but it's like a printed fabric. And for my art, I do a lot of heart art and peace, and that's really a lot of message. So it has peace symbols all over it, and actually it says peace up at the top, but you can't see it. It depends on how far or how close we are. But it's a bunch of peace signs, different colors, and kind of I don't know, what would you call it? A distressed sort of background in a way.
I love it. And I love that your hair is so vibrantly red at the moment. I love your hair. The red in your backdrop.
It has gotten very vibrantly red over time, and I like it. It suits my personality.
That's wonderful.
Hi, welcome to the Creative Podcast. Glad you're here today.
I'm Gilli at TheCrea8ve, and welcome to another episode of the Creative Entrepreneur Podcast, where I interview leading female executives, digital and creative disruptors, and entrepreneurs who share their insights, tactics, and strategies that made them successful passion leaders. So this podcast is very special to me because I'm sharing topics around creativity, entrepreneurship, or a little bit of both. And I'm focusing a lot lately on women in business, and that tends to touch on some really juicy discussions of strength, empowerment, life stories, which get ready for this, Deb, and taking the path least traveled, which brings me to today's podcast. I am excited to have Deborah Bishop here as my special guest, and I'm going to share a little bit about her, and then I'm sure you're going to hear a lot about her from her own mouth. Deborah is both an award-winning performing recording artist and a highly noted energetic practitioner. So we're going to hear all about what she practices in. In her private practice, she specializes in helping entrepreneurs, so she's using the tag, great, in moving from their survival patterns that run on autopilot to the conscious creation of the success and life they deserve. This is so cool. And in case you want to just immediately go and see what Deborah is all about, her website is welcometobishopworld.com. And you can find her on Instagram at Join Deborah Bishop or Twitter, Deborah Bishop's Place. All right. So Deborah, I've got a juicy topic today, but first, before we get into the topic, I just wanted to hear from you. How are you doing? I haven't spoken to you in forever, and I just want to hear, like, what's been going on with you that the rest of the world can know?
Well, there's a lot going on. Some of it I have to sort of stay quiet on, but and some of it is just interesting. Life is always fascinating and interesting. It's been a bit of a roller coaster over the last few years, and I feel like I've learned how to put my hands in the air and just go wee, as opposed to hanging on and being terrified. And that's been a life learning, because as much as I want to say I courageously go forward, because that's very much how I live my life, it's not always easy to let go and just trust that everything will be okay. Even if that's what you teach and live by, it's still not always easy to do. So that's been a big part of my journey. I'm doing a lot of music. I'm doing a lot of writing. And I've kind of gone a little bit back, I guess I would say, into my roots, which are a little bit more woo-woo, quote unquote, but using intuition and empathy and just the gifts that I've been given to really help guide and serve others. And that's been really amazing to sort of, not that it hasn't been a part of who I've been all the way along, but it's been something that when I moved to Nashville, I kind of sort of stepped back from a little bit, because there's a lot of judgment around it. There's a lot of things and not knowing exactly how people were going to respond. I just kind of couched in different ways. But it's been very freeing to kind of own all of those parts of me and not sort of be silent about these things. And that happened after a pretty significant car crash where I'm very lucky to be alive. And I just went, you know what, I'm done. I'm not gonna hide any parts of me, because I live by the motto, what you think of me is none of my business. So I decided to make that an actual truth. And so that's been probably the biggest sort of things that have been happening for me recently. I have a lot of clients that I've been helping on a more of a spiritual path. And I've just always been a spiritual person. So that's been really sort of full circle for me in a lot of ways. And I'm grateful for that. And it comes out in my music and it comes out in my arts. I'm wearing, you can't see it, but this is my energetic arts. What energetic arts? Of course, I should have it backwards. So
on your t-shirt. It's great.
And that is, that's really, that's my visual arts. I've been working with a friend of mine, Miss Sutash, who I adore. And we digitized a bunch of art and then went in and did different things to it digitally and created energy totems. So my visual arts kind of entering into the arena too. I just finished an ebook which lists all of the first series that has all of the meanings and so forth. So I'm going to put that up on Amazon here in the next month.
Oh my gosh. I mean, in the first minute, I've heard you be so prolifically creative. The spiritual path, the music, the ebook that you're going to put on Amazon. Like, what don't you do? That is amazing. I love that about you. You're always so very creative and
it's my sanity. It's my sanity.
Yeah, no, it's just so, keep going. Tell us more. I mean, it's a lot. It's great. Love it. Very inspiring.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And I always feel the same for you too, because, you know, for you, we've known each other for many years, since we were little tiny children. Yes, because of course we're still little tiny children. But you know, you're a massive inspiration to me, because you've always been so amazing at sort of putting things in front of you and just doing it, manifesting it, you know, allowing it to happen in your life and stepping in. And it's been such a privilege to call you a dear friend. And to be able to watch you evolve as not just an artist, but an entrepreneur yourself, and a really prolific and profound businesswoman and an amazing mother. And that's just, I'm privileged to be part of that journey, I think. And so, you know, we're not that different, because you're constant, you're always flowing. This is like the next for you. This is you're kind of going to your roots in a way too, I think, and encompassing. And I think we have this in common, that all aspects of us are merging into this next reality. And that's the thing I think I'm most excited about.
You know, I just took a note there, because there's so much that you've just said, and it's not even our topic today, everybody. But you said something about owning all parts of me, and then and I really see that about you. You've always been able to, at least from the outside, I look at you and you're being able to do so many different streams of yourself, whether it's your spiritual self, your business self, your creative self, and it's really inspiring to see that. I think I've been going through this metamorphosis, I guess, or renaissance, I'm not sure, of myself, of bringing all of my brands together as well for the first time. I kept my Gilli Moon artistry very separate to my Gilli Aliotti business self. And now I'm bringing it all together in the creative, which is very exciting to have both entrepreneurial aspects, the coaching aspects, and the music and creativity and the podcasting aspects all smashed together and going. And then you said something about what people think of me is none of my business. And that's so true. It's really like living your truth and owning your truth. And once you get to really living your truth, you're able to free some of the blocks, self-sabotaging blocks of the past, and move forward into newness, into creativity, into opportunity, into abundance, all of these amazing things. So I'm definitely on a journey. I still feel like I'm a little child doing that. And so I love gathering people around me that are on the same journey as me. So yeah, very nice that you brought that up. Well, wonderful. I'd love to bring up our topic today. And it might weave into what we're already discussing. Today's topic is about getting beyond survive to thrive as an entrepreneur, as a female entrepreneur. So I'd love to hear from you as to, and feel free to share some personal experience wherever you feel comfortable, like overcoming, or at least, overcoming the surviving piece and how you're able to flip it into thrive. And maybe we can do some definitions as well. So what do you think your definition is maybe of actually thriving?
To me, thriving is living a life that's fully expressed and just on purpose, where you feel connected, and it's highly profitable. And I use a lot of terminology that can relate to money as well as life in general, because profitability, just like wealth, is something to me that is it's everywhere. It's not just what's in your bank account. It's not the material world alone. It's also, like, I've worked with so many clients that have so much more money than they would ever know what to do with in 5 lifetimes, but they have no relationships working in their life, or their kids don't talk to them, and have they've been estranged for years, or their health is really suffering. Or I've worked with others where they're living this good life, they have everything they think they need to have, but they have no life, because they are constantly working, constantly trying to figure out how to get to the next and how to get more. Like, when is more enough? And to me, none of that is wealth. None of that is really being truly profitable. So to really thrive in life is, in my opinion, to be fully expressed, to really feel like you are living your best life, and being your truth and being authentic, and to also feel that you have the time freedom, you have a choice, you are making those choices of your own free will, and you're living your purpose. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to necessarily work in a career that's completely wholeheartedly fulfilling their soul, but that doesn't mean they can't do things alongside that career that fulfill their soul. And hopefully those things will ultimately merge and connect, because I think that's what we're really here to do. And then, of course, have the money, have the ability, because it's so much nicer to live life when your needs are exceeded. And that's really subjective to anybody. How much is enough? I don't know. How simply do you want to live? How complicated do you want to live? So to me, to be profitable is to have your needs exceeded, whatever those are.
Do you feel like it's hard to, and this might be a rhetorical question because we may know the answer, but to really own or embrace profitability or financial abundance? It's really tough, touchy term. I mean, from my own point of view, it's taking me my entire life to really be comfortable with making money. And I've made money. I've lost money. I've had no money. I've made a ton of money. But I was brought up in an interesting, kind of a humble way. We weren't really supposed to ask for a ton of money. A lot of stuff there, right? So what's your perspective on that?
I think that the money relationship, I've done lots of work on it. I have a virtual retreat that I do on it. That I'd love to do as a physical retreat one day. I have literally a 50-page workbook that I created, and it's 12 modules, and we do it in a weekend, or we do it as a 12-week or whatever. I haven't done it recently, but
you better get that one out, because we might.
Yes, I know it's there. It's literally building your relationship to money. I honestly believe that money is one of the most committed and dysfunctional relationships of our life that we never agreed to, because we never agreed to it. we were just born into this reality that money
Yeah.
is what it is, and therefore you must. And everybody has stories around it. They have stories based on their legacies of what their family has been, what their family before that was, what they were told. You know, it was not polite. My family, not polite to talk about money ever.
Right.
We never do that. And so they never talked to me about money. I wasn't necessarily good. And, you know, and in my life, money was used kind of as a bit of I won't say a weapon. It was used, like, there was a lot of dysfunction in my life, and we don't have to go off because this isn't necessarily our topic, but it does relate to moving past survival. And for me, money equated to this idea that instead of being apologized to, things would happen and suddenly it didn't matter what you did, you were in the doghouse for however long. And it was like kind of emotionally abusive. There's some mental illness there. And when they came out of this sort of whole spectrum, instead of an apology or ownership or even an acknowledgement that this had been going on for a couple of weeks, there was a check on the dresser, or there was a shopping spree. Gotcha. And those were fun, admittedly. But what it taught me about money was very dysfunctional. And that's the thing. We all have these stories. We all have these realities around money. And so we have this highly dysfunctional relationship to money, but we don't realize that we have it. And money is the one inanimate object that we treat as though it has the ability to change us, that money can somehow corrupt us. You know, and money is not anything like that. Money is a magnifier. The more money you have, the more who you are is magnified because you have greater reach. So if you're a not nice person, you're going to be a not nice person with lots of money. And if you're a really nice person, you're going to be a really nice person with lots of money. Money does not change our personality.
Yeah, money is definitely an energy, and it's interesting that you said that, like money begets money. Once you realize, once you've been able to make a decision, which can take a lifetime, to attract money, you can continue to attract that money because your whole persona, your whole mindset, your opportunities, your ability to go get it, you know, you change that mode. Until that point, you can feel trapped because you don't know, you don't think you can, you think you're not allowed to, you don't give yourself permission because no one else gave you permission in your life. And so it's like you feel like you're in this trap, and therefore you're in this survival mode versus the thriving mode. And I remember distinctly when that switched for me. It was actually I was going out with my then boyfriend, now husband, Jeff, on a date. It was 2005, maybe 2006, probably 2006. And I had been living up until that point, running my own record company as an indie artist, taking the dregs of the gigs. Yes, I did a lot, like I toured the world, but I was like living off the skin of my, the skin of my teeth. And I'm just like barely balancing the paycheck, right? Because that's what you did as an indie artist. And that's what I was brought up to be, resourceful and do it yourself. And, you know.
I remember you said something to me I'd never heard before. My parents taught me to, was it live off the smell of an oily rag?
Oily rag. I can live on the smell of an oily rag. Exactly. It's like you just know how to do it. And, you know, being raised on a mountaintop myself on solar power with the catching the rainwater, and of course we learned to be resourceful. That was my legacy, my childhood, right? So I could do it anywhere, and I did. I mean, this is not a success topic. This is about surviving to thriving financially for a minute, right? So while I was very successful, and I have different definitions of success, one was, those definitions had nothing to do with money, obviously. So we were going to dinner one night, and I saw this, I don't know, 20-something woman, barely, I thought she was a teenager, driving this really fancy Mercedes down 6th Street, Los Angeles. with the bling on the arms and I'm looking at this girl at the stop sign. I'm at the stoplight, and she's like at the stoplight, and I'm like, why don't I have that? Like, why can't I have that? And then it literally went boom in my head. You can have that. That's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a choice. And from that moment on, I shifted. I mean, there's work to do, right? But I shifted my mentality, my mindset, and said, I want what I do and that. I'm going to add that to the thing. I never added it as a goal. And ever since, I became more of a wealth attractor. I started to value myself more. That's actually the biggest piece. I'd love to hear that from you. Like, how have you overcome? Give me an example of where you've overcome the mentality of surviving to thriving. Do you have a similar story like that when you went, it might have been a longer story for you, I'm not sure. And it doesn't have to be about the money, but it's about the thriving.
I have a lot of stories. We'll go through the files. Let's see which one. And I will say that once you do make that switch does go off, you can't explain it to anybody. You just can't. But what does that feel like? It's like you'll just know when you know. And that's one of the more frustrating things. And I remember being really frustrated by that myself. Like, what do you mean I'm going to know when I know? Like, what? What am I doing wrong? And that was the first thing, right? The minute you're going, what am I doing wrong? All you're focused on is what you're doing wrong. And you're continuing to affirm for yourself that you were doing things wrong. Life will always agree with you. So if you say you're doing things wrong, life goes, fair enough, you're doing it wrong. There you go. You get to have that, but you don't get to have this. Well, why? Because you're doing it wrong, right? Like, change your mind. You can have that, but just decide you're doing it right, or decide that, you're finding new ways to do it right. Because, in the end, doing it wrong, which some people are so afraid of, they're afraid of getting it wrong. They're so afraid of that they won't take the chance. And to me, getting it wrong or failing is just learning how not to do something. If you really want to learn how to do it, you're going to have to fall down. And yeah, it's no fun. It hurts. But once you've fallen down and you brush yourself off, you might do it again. In my case, I probably fell down on certain things 10, 20 times, it's like, until I realized, wait a minute, I'm the common denominator. So, that's the thing I can do something about. And so once you've made that switch, you can always attract. That does not mean, though, that you always do, because there's all sorts of other things that are also going on. So if you have more work to do, sometimes life will just give you another set of circumstances where that's no longer necessarily the issue, but it can become the issue because you start going back into old ways of being. For me, when I really knew that there was no limitation on what I could attract financially, I was married. And my husband went through a best way to say it, just a complete emotional breakdown. And that's a whole other conversation. But in that process, he basically walked away. He worked in like the top 1% of the film industry. We made that level of income. I had my own business, but he was the primary income owner at that time. And he had expenses and we had expenses that really measured to that. I mean, you live where you live, right? And he basically
and you spend what you make when you live in those places.
True.
That's a whole different topic. Yeah.
And it's like, all of a sudden he just walked away from it. And I was it. That was it. It was me. And if I didn't do it, we were done. And it was not exactly at that moment, but it was during that time that I realized, well, wait a minute. Yes, I can actually, like, why am I thinking I can't support this, or I can't build this up, or I can't do anything about this, that we're going to have all this. That doesn't have to look like that. And I was we were driving up to Oregon to meet up with my folks to have a vacation. And on the road, I was doing business on the phone, and I closed a deal. At that time, I was doing a lot of stuff with high-end conferences and stuff. And because personal development, spiritual development, has been part of art, spiritual development, performance, it's always been the holy trinity. And I was on the phone. I closed the deal. I hung up the phone, and it was just a light bulb. It went, oh yeah, of course I can do this. Of course I can. And
so what is
and it
that?
just
That is something that triggers in. What is that for you? What was that for you in your mind when you say, "Of course I can"? What
I
shifted?
gave myself permission. I realized that the only person that was stopping me from having whatever I want, and this is very simplified. I'm not saying there wasn't deep work involved and that there isn't to this day deep work involved. Um, but I just recognized that the only person that was telling me I couldn't was me. And those
Yeah,
stories came from all over the place. They weren't necessarily stories I was born with, but they were stories I was gifted. and I took them on as beliefs, like, of course this is how life is, of course this is
yeah.
the way it goes, of course this is what I deserve. And none of that's true. Not a single bit of that is true,
Really
except,
talking about mindset, like really like tapping into a different mindset here.
yeah, I like to bring it down to the heart too, though. I like to bring it down to the emotions. I think a lot of people work on mindset, and I think that mindset is triggered by emotion. And
Mm,
if you are not handling your emotional truths and lies and stories, then no matter what you do with your mindset, I mean, you can have affirmations all over your wall. They're going to challenge your nervous system. They're going to threaten your survival. They're not necessarily going to buoy you and build you up unless you are emotionally healthy with what you are actually saying for yourself. So I tend to differentiate a lot of the work I do because of the fact that I deal in the emotional side of this, as
right.
opposed to just specifically mindset. Not that mindset is not a huge part, it is. It's just they're interconnected. And
So how do you, no, finish your
the
thought.
synapse of our brain runs all the way down to our stomach, right? It runs right down to so it goes through our heart, it goes through our intuitive center, it goes right to the gut. So this idea of trust your gut is actually very accurate. Synapse
Mm,
goes all the way down there for a reason.
I love it. So how do you, could you give us just a little tip? I mean, it's probably a lot of work, but to really to do this, but what do you mean by um handling your emotion or emotional truth? Like what is one way that you can start to take a look at that?
It's so simple. I use smartphones because everybody has smartphones. I'll say set an alarm on your phone like 3 times a day. Make it the same as your ringer. So you don't put a special ringer on it, because if we do that, then we all of a sudden disregard it because, oh yeah, we know what that is. Forget it. So make sure it's your ringer, because then you always have to look. And on that, write, how am I feeling? It's that simple. And when it goes off, check and go, how am I feeling?
Oh,
How am I feeling right now? Just start to ask yourself that question. The simplest thing I can say
wow.
has the most profound effect is, if you move towards the thing that actually allows you to feel better, your life will improve. It is literally that simple. Now, most people like, oh, okay, so I got to move towards that thing that feels great. It's like, no, you move towards the thing that makes you feel better, that thing that energizes you just a little bit. If you're down in a mud hole and you're up to your neck in mud, well, the thing that might make you feel better is the thing that's going to bring you out of the mud to your shoulders.
Mm,
Well, it doesn't mean it's going to take you out. It just means it's going to build you up.
yeah.
And then it might be up to your waist. Then it's to your ankles. Then all of a sudden you're crawling, and you're pulling yourself up. And eventually,
Yeah.
when you keep doing that, you pull yourself out of the hole. But it's step by step by step. There is no pendulum swing here. If we go, oh my God, I've got it figured out, and we swing, we freak ourselves out, because our survival instinct is wired into our nervous system. And our
Mm-mm.
nervous system will create resistance where we're completely unaware. It will stop us in our tracks, and we're completely unaware of it, because it's like we don't know how to survive like that. So somebody who's been broke and struggling their whole life, they don't know how to survive wealthy. They have no clue. So
But
there's the
some of
transition.
them don't know how to survive happy.
Exactly. Well, happy is a whole
You,
other. Even the government couldn't figure that out. They said pursuit of happiness, because they just couldn't figure out what it meant to be happy, right?
if you're in a state of survival, of how people can interpret that for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which affects your emotions and your well-being and everything about you, it can be impossible to get out of that state, because you almost actually lean on it like a crutch, like
It's an addiction.
state, exactly, state of unhappiness, state of demoralized, a state
Mm-hmm.
of I can't I'm not enough, a state of I can't do this, a state of no one's helping me, victim mentality. All of these things start to swell and become like everything that you are. And without some kind of trigger, whether it's help, a coach, a therapist, or a change in your life, or an aha like I had when I was walking down the street. What am I? Like, I just literally pulled myself out of myself and said, Gilli, just shook her, my inner self, and said, what are you talking about? You can absolutely have that Mercedes if you just go after it. You know, that kind of, like, you need this trigger to be able to get out of it. Otherwise it's a spiral. That's what they call a spiral effect of people you're not able to get out of where you're at.
It goes deep though. It's I call it a foundational lie. It's things that have happened between, you know, the age of 0 and 6 that actually affect the majority of how we think of ourselves and where we think we're damaged or broken and how we try to hide it. And that's because we don't know any better at that stage. We literally don't have the capacity. Our brain has not turned on a different channel. So everything begins and ends with us. So therefore, when something doesn't feel good for the very first time, we go, what did we do wrong? And what do we need to do differently? And the worst part is we go, oh, what did we learn from this experience? Now, this is what I learned to expect from life, right? And then because we're such incredible creators, because we are, that's what we do. We create belief systems that support the idea that this is how life is. So anytime somebody says, this is just who I am, or this is just how life is, this is what always happens, that's a reflection of what I call, and I'm not unique in calling this the foundational lie. And there's a lot to be said about the trigger that you're talking about. What I find is that the most humbling part of this journey is the willingness to actually accept that you are an active participant. And what people find in their own dysfunction is that, oh my gosh, I can't do it. Well, then somebody helps. And then they're like, I'm validated because somebody helped me, so I must be good. But then that help goes away, and then it's like, oh my God, I don't really feel good. And this is the way I describe a lot of relationships, because I went through a period of time professionally where I worked with a lot of couples and so forth. And it was like, hey, here's my dysfunction, here's your dysfunction, and you can take this into business, you can take it anywhere. And you know what? I'll tell you, you're amazing, as long as you tell me I'm amazing. And then we'll be really happy because we'll tell each other how amazing we both are. Not that either one of them feel amazing, but as long as the other one's telling them that they're amazing, for a while, that's perfectly fine. So think of that in a business form. As long as you're out in the world going, yes, my business is amazing. And your client, okay, yes, your business is amazing. But there comes a point in time where you just don't feel like saying it one day, where it just isn't there. You're just like frustrated, whatever. Something happens and you're just like, willpower is like a rechargeable battery. It has to be recharged. You cannot live on willpower alone. It will burn out. The day that it burns out and you decide, I just don't feel like telling you that my business is amazing, or I just don't feel like telling you that you're amazing. Well, things happen pretty quickly after that. In relationships, it's like, I'm not going to tell you you're amazing. What? You're not going to tell me I'm amazing? I'm not telling you amazing. And away we go. And the language is not always very pleasant. But in business, it's kind of like, I'm not going to tell you my business is amazing. And then people go, well, I don't really know that I feel like your business is amazing. So I'm not sure I'm going to make it. And it just goes on this spiral as you're talking about. So the trigger to me, the point of no return, where people will work with me, is when they literally are going, okay, and this is a strange statement to say, because I don't think there's anything wrong with anybody, but they come to a place where they're like, what is wrong with me? And that's when they're actually either willing to do something, or they're going to go to a really dark place for a while. And, and sometimes they go to a really dark place and then they do something. But the good news about all of that is that when you can say, hey, I have something to do with this. I actually have something to do with what's happening in my life. Even if you can't stand where your life is right now, if you can admit that you have something to do with it, everything can change.
I really like that. I always think about living in the contrast, which means, not everything's hunky-dory, and we can fabricate that. Oh, I feel good, like you just mentioned. Oh, everything's great.
And social media is a great tool for that, by the way, and is often used in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm social media, but
Yeah, I've got everything going in my life. Everything's
Yeah.
wow, wow, wow. It's all a show. It's all a charade. But when you get to a place of darkness, or what I call the contrast, it's the pivot. It is a great pivot because yes, you can go very dark and deep, and maybe you need a lifeline and help. But if whatever the circumstance, you need to know the contrast in order to live in the light. You need to be able to compare, because if we're always living in the light and everything's wonderful, you will never know what it's like otherwise, and so you don't appreciate what you have when you have it. Whereas if you can see the contrast as well and know what it's like when you don't have it, whatever that it is, then that's when you know you have abundance. That's when you know you have happiness. That's when you know you have prosperity and all of those things, because you're able to compare to the contrast, which is all through our lives. I mean, definitely through my life. I don't know about you.
I think you do. I think you know more about me than you're putting on. But anyway, I'm kidding. No, it's
well, everyone else does it.
Yeah, the reality of I'm teasing. The reality of that is, yeah, I agree. I think the paradigm we've been living in for a very long time says that, you have to know pain in order to recognize pleasure. I look forward to the day, because I really do feel that it is possible. Just because we haven't necessarily seen it does not mean it does not exist, and nor does that not mean that we can't create it. We are creators after all. Is the idea that what if it didn't have to look like that? Like, what if we really could move into a place where we value ourselves highly enough that we don't have to be without in order to recognize that we can have something? That to me is like, I believe that is possible. I can see that somewhere in reality. And it would be nice to begin to feel but that becomes generational, because the more everything we get passed down all of these ideas, we get passed down all of this concepts, and yes, there will always be darkness and there will always be light, because if the light falls on a tree, the sun falls on the tree, you're going to get a shadow. There's light and dark at play, but neither one of those are bad. The shadow is the cool and it's lovely, and the sun is the bright and it's warm, and they need each other in order to exist. But neither one of those are pain, and neither one of those are angst. So I think that we can do this dance between the light and the shadow without necessarily having to go into deep, deep suffering. I just don't think that we have any real examples of it, because those that have figured it out are those that exist in parts of the jungle that we don't get to. They've existed this way for eons because they're not affected by the screens and the technology and the corporations and everybody telling them what they should have and what they shouldn't have, and the next big thing, and what you're supposed to be focused on, and how important it is that you have to do this, and you must own a home, and you must do these things, and you must have this car. They're completely away from all of that. And I'm not saying that's idealistic either. I'm just saying that there's something to be said for the purity of that mindset, that emotional alignment that they actually naturally have, because they're not being interfered with in the same ways. Whereas we're being subjected to so much that we're oblivious to. Our mind has 30,000 pieces of information happening all the time that it can actually process. There's more going on, but your mind is actually processing 30,000 pieces of information, and any given millisecond that's going on. Like, just thinking of that, and then thinking of how much we're impacted by everything around us now. We're in sensory overload all the time. When you're an entrepreneur, there we go. The reality of like being bombarded with how you're supposed to do things, the way you're supposed to do things, what's next, what's this funnel, how's that funnel, what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it. Oh, you don't need to do any of those things. You could do it in 1 hour. No, you need to do 20, blah, 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 and on and on and on and on. And is it email? Is it social media? What is it? How is it? It's absolutely intimidating, I think.
Yeah. It's a really great segue, because I really wanted to get into like the female, the woman in business, and the woman being that entrepreneur, going from surviving to thriving. There's many examples in the world where we've seen very well-known female entrepreneurs do really well. Arianna Huffington, Oprah Winfrey, those kinds of role models, right? And they're great role models for us, but not everyone has a role model, and they're in a niche trying to do something interesting. And it can be tough to find that way, the path. Tell me something that you feel could be inspiring for, I get these young entrepreneurs, and actually age is not even part of it, but entrepreneurs that are just trying to start up something new, whether they are trying to start up a business. And I know that you've been in the business world for a long time, the creative business and the coaching business for a long time, or moving from one career to the next, because they, I've been working with a lot of clients as a coach of women, especially women who want to move from one career to the next, or one job to the next, just looking for a new job as an example. Like, what would be some of the things that could help them get into this thrive mindset and emotional stability, to feel like they can, they will, someone will come, or they are going to manifest? Like, it'd be lovely to hear from your experience, like how you've been able to make that possible for yourself.
Well, that's a big question.
Sorry. And around the world,
in one word, what can we? Yeah. It's what comes to mind, and we're going to use this as a metaphor, and I know it's something that a lot of women would be really not comfortable doing, and that's one of the reasons why it's coming up. And I have actually told some of my female clients to do this, and they've had a very profound experience with it, where they've literally like stripped down to nothing, and they have stood in front of a mirror, and they have started to truly look at themselves, all of it, and learn to find the things that they can really appreciate about themselves. Because I mean, let's face it, it doesn't matter what you think somebody, oh, she's really pretty, oh, she's not. I guarantee you, even if she is the most beautiful woman you've ever seen, she doesn't want to stand in front of that mirror and look at her flaws, because she sees the flaws. We all see the flaws. So this idea, and you can use it as a metaphor, use it any way, go inside, look at yourself that way. But this is a great doorway to that. The willingness to be able to really look at who we are is, in my opinion, the very first step to ultimately allowing us to be successful. And that means we look at all of the parts that we can appreciate. We look at all of the parts that we want to reject, and we come to a place of acceptance. The mantra that all of my clients have always had is love, forgive, accept. Because if we can love, forgive, and accept ourselves, then the capacity to do great things in the world becomes very, very possible, because we no longer have to feel judged or feel the need to judge. And that changes the paradigm a lot. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the cosmetic industry, in the coaching industry, if you're building an indie artist career, if whatever it is you're doing, if you're working with kids, whatever, it's understanding who you are first.
Yeah.
And that means also understanding what your beliefs are. And that's the deep dive, because your beliefs will be the difference between thriving and survival mode.
Amazing.
That's it.
Totally agree. It's funny, I spend quite a few sessions in my masterminds and programs that I have with people who coach with me. And we spend a lot of the work on the who am I piece, and before the what you want and going after it. And a lot of them are like, well, can we just get on with my goals, and I want to go get, what do I do next? I'm like, we're not ready for that. We've got to do the inner work first. Let's sit here for a bit and really get clear with who you are, not who you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even yesterday, but who you are now and who you want to be. And it's that inner work, which is almost like a block. It's hard to face it, because also we're filled with perception of what other people think of me.
Oh yeah.
It's funny you said stand in front of the mirror and see yourself raw. Like looking in the mirror, metaphorically, we see so much. It can be very muddy, because what we thought we were, that little girl or boy, sitting in there going, I'm amazing, right? I'm amazing, has been smothered and pushed down to this last manager at your job who told you were this, or your people on social media telling you this, or people in business telling you this, or your harshest critics have been telling you this, your partner that you no longer want to talk to anymore is telling you this. All of these things have, and then of course what your parents were telling you, and all of the stuff is just built up to that little person inside you that said, I'm amazing. It's like, I'm amazing, can you hear me? And you can't, because what you're seeing reflected in the mirror, I'm using your metaphor, is this muddiness. So how do you get to that clarity?
You know, one of the things I know, and I've been a person to do this as well, first of all, you've got to come to a reckoning with yourself that you want to. That's the first thing. Recognize that you want to take this journey, and that this journey has value. And I will often say to individuals, it's like, if you treat this as much and as importantly as you would treat closing $1 million deal, or receiving $1 million check, you know, if you were to show up for yourself in the same way, because we would all show up to close $1 million deal, we would all show up to receive a $1 million check. So if you can treat it like that, then you're going to set yourself up to succeed in doing the work. And then the other thing is recognizing that we can do a lot of work on ourselves. We truly can. We can do a lot of stuff. There's amazing stuff out there. There's all sorts of stuff. There's also a major saturation of stuff, and there's a lot of possibility to go down interesting one-way streets that may not be the appropriate street. So you can waste a lot of time sometimes trying to figure it all yourself. But I will tell you this for 100% fact, and this was true for myself as well. When you hit the survival aspects of your programming, the true survival aspects, they will stop you if you try to do anything differently, because you are blind to them. They are literally what you do not know about yourself, that are running on autopilot. That's when you want to be working with someone. That's when it's important to invest in the healing, in the process, in the knowing. And it's not just, oh, please give me the ways to be successful. It's, oh my gosh, show me what's happening for me inside. Show me what that truth is that I am not seeing for myself. And if you're willing to do that, and it's an investment in yourself. I mean, it is. Yeah. It's you know, but it's an investment that pays off for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It changes how you perceive life. It doesn't change your history. You can't go erase. I do a lot of work with people who have gone through heavy trauma, heavy duty trauma. And I didn't necessarily hang my shingle out for that, but that's just, yeah, I've been through trauma myself. So I think you do get that which you have sort of experienced in a way. We attract who we are, right? So, but it's like, if you're willing to just take that moment and say, I'm worth more than this, therefore I will do what it takes to move past that trauma. It's not that the trauma will not exist, it's that the trauma will no longer trigger. And that's the point. And you can take that trauma all sorts of ways. Sometimes it's very dark and awful and horrendous stuff. But sometimes it's something very simple, but it was so traumatic to the individual at that time because they were so young or whatever, that it has just created this whole ricochet effect that keeps rebounding back on them in their life. But the bottom line to all of it, and the simplest answer, is to say, like, you can do a lot of work on yourself, and it's very important to keep yourself in this conversation and to surround yourself with things that remind you. At some point, though, we have to stop DIYing our best selves, because if we knew how to be our best selves, we would already be them.
Amazing. If we knew how to be our best selves, we would already be. Yes. Yeah.
And I practice what I preach. I have people I work with regularly that are my people, my mentors, my teachers, my accountability folks that say, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And why are you doing that? It's like, I don't know.
Well, it's a life. I mean, this life is not about like, having it all figured out, and and that's it.
That would be so boring, wouldn't it?
When you figured it out, you die, right? Like life is about a journey of becoming. And really, that's why we're here, to discover ourselves, right? And so that's the lessons, is really exploring.
And we have to get over the too late, too old, to this, to that. When you said young entrepreneurs, I look at that as not age related. I look at that as somebody who, I don't care if you're 65, if it's your first time coming into entrepreneurialism, you're a young entrepreneur. We're in a society now where those things are no longer any level of boundary unless we psychologically think, oh my gosh, it's too late.
That's right. Yeah, no, and I caught myself when I said it, because I'm definitely an example of someone who's always said age does not matter. And I've said that all my life. I've been reading this book, and then I do want to get to some music too while we're here. I've been reading this book called Blowing My Way to the Top by Jen Atkins. She's a hairdresser for the famous. And she came from a small town and came to LA, kind of like I did, with suitcase and like ready to make things happen. And one thing that she said is, when she was going out to get investors for her hair salon, and now it's a very well-known hair salon, she there's this one chapter where she's talking about how, because she knew people, she got the meeting. So, and it was all, these meetings were always set up in restaurants where, it's kind of, people could leave easily, and someone's off to go, okay, I need to leave, whatever. So, she was recalling her first time she had to go and get some VC funding for her startup, her hairdressing salon startup. And she was terrified. She's like, I'm just a girl from wherever, sort of small town America. They're not going to believe me, that nothing's going to happen. But then what she did is she did this, I think she looked in the mirror. She was like doing this mirror exercise. She put on the lippy, she did her hair, which she knows how to do famously, the stilettos, but she had the jeans with the jacket, and she did something comfortable but cute style. She felt good. She put herself into like a feel good mode, talking about your emotions. And then she's going to the restaurant, and I'm kind of embellishing a bit, but it's really a true story. And she sits down, and they're all men, of course, and and she's the woman in the space here at the restaurant, about to try and ask for money, which is, it's one thing if you're like earning money or have money or no money, but to ask someone else to give you money, that's a whole different ball game, because you really need to be able to sell it, right, for these investors. So something triggered in her, and she said, well, how am I going to sell it? And what am I going to say? I don't know what to say. And then she realized she had it all. She had everything she needed. She could talk about her salon and her talent all day long. And that's what she did. She just talked about the salon. She talked about her talent, and she blew them out of the park. She got the money that she needed because she was her authentic self. She didn't try and be something that she's not.
Right.
And she'd also gave herself a bit of strength with the way she dressed and come in. The guys were like totally like enamored of her, right? And she used it as her power, to get the money. So I just kind of wanted to give an example there of wrapping it up. She's got her own traumas and all of that, right? But in that moment, she had to own her power. She decided who she was, right? Not the stories, right? She decided who she was in that moment, because at any given moment, we can decide, hey, I am this. Right.
And the minute that we make that decision, which is by, definition, killing off everything else, because suicide is the same as homicide. It's got everything to do with that. Get rid of that. The minute that we do that, we step into something new and different. But here's the trick to decisions, because a lot of people are terrified to make decisions. They behave as if it's like, this is the only one we ever get. That's it. We never get another one. We better make the right one. So then we make no decisions whatsoever. Here's the deal. You can make a decision, and then you can make as many decisions as required to make that decision right for you. So everybody has permission now to go make decisions.
Yeah. My mom used to say, Make a decision and make it the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you can always make a new decision.
Exactly. Make as many decisions as you need. Like, oops, I didn't recognize that. That's the same thing. Like, oh, I made that decision. Oh my gosh, I fell down. That hurt. Okay, I can make a different decision now. Now I'm going to get back up, but I'm going to go that way. You know, that's my next decision. Awesome. It's like we have as many decisions as we could possibly ever make in our lifetime. Plus.
Wonderful. Well, now we're coming to a place where I need you to make a decision.
Nice. That was a simple one.
What song?
See, one of my favorite songs of yours, and this is going back. This is the throwback to when you were just a little itty girl making music. I have always loved Temperamental Angel.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah,
good choice. I don't know if everyone knows this, but every episode that I have, I ask my guests to choose a song from my vault of songs,
of which there are many. Prolific artists that you are.
Seems to be. Well, we're going to listen to Temperamental Angel, and we'll come back and have a little talk. Okay, here is Temperamental Angel.
Sliding in the river, feeling the mud stick between my toes. I'm alive, but my body's struggling to compose. I'm thinking too much. What if I never experienced this period in my life? Would I have been an ignorant waste of time? I'm a sucker for conventional romance, and I've never truly experienced the chance to be treated like an angel, a temperamental angel. Thought he was cool, but in retrospect I've been a fool pretending. But then again, love is blind. I'm alone. You won't live alone, you die alone. Must we accept the cards we're dealt? It's crazy to be denied of life. I'm a sucker for conventional romance, and I've never truly experienced the chance to be treated like an angel, a temperamental angel. So will you save me? I'm waiting for my resurrection. Go on and save me. I need your true protection. Treat me like an angel, temperamental angel. I'm the type who'll never walk away from you, but hurry over before I'm broken into two. Will you treat me like an angel, even if I'm a temperamental angel? I'm a sucker for conventional romance, and I'm not truly experienced the chance to be treated like an angel, devil and an angel, dreaming
treat me like an angel, a
Right.
temperamental angel. Oh my gosh, I remember like I totally recorded this in Burbank with
At the shed.
no, Evan Beagle and I did this in his studio. A shout out to Evan Beagle. When I first came to LA, I auditioned a bunch of musicians at the Musicians Institute to do some gigs, and then I'm like, okay, we're gonna go to the studio. And it was like I totally wanted this Alanis Morissette kind of in the garage raw kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Temperamental Angel was.
You pulled it off. I remember you performing it at, was it Kulak's Woodshed, or just, that's where I remember the first time I heard it. You know,
Yeah, probably. That would have been a stripped down version of it at Cool.
Oh yeah, no, of course. It was you and your piano, but it was all, that was really cool because that's when they were first doing streaming, and you had the streaming stuff going on, and and you know, it was really interesting. But yeah, that's always been a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I loved it. When the album was called Temperamental Angel 2, it was my first kind of official album. It's interesting, quick story is back in the day, you know, artists were still wanting to get record deals. They're still, you know, schlepping their music around and to the record companies. And I realized at that time that I wanted to think outside the box and take the path least travels, which I did, which was set up my own record label and release it myself, because I'd just come out of a deal that went sour. I was signed to a record deal, and like many artists, they go south. In a way, this wasn't necessarily a bad deal. It's just we never released the music, and I just was so frustrated as a young artist. All I wanted to do was get my music out. All I wanted is just to get my music out, and so I went on my own and you know, became my own entrepreneur with my own startup, which we didn't even call them startups at the time, but my own music business. I had my own record company, publishing company. I was my own manager, my own publisher. I was my own promoter. I would, you know, we did the launch at the Mint here in Los Angeles and just packed out the room and got the ticket sales and did all of that, all the behind the scenes as well as the performing. And I used to perform on stage with like canvases and paint at the same time, which is how you and I really started to connect, because you as a musician, and you came into my record label for a while too. And then we started painting together. And I was like, okay, this girl is my kind of girl. And it's awesome. And we're going to play one of your songs at the end here. But before we do, you know, now we're all grown up, I guess. I'm like, you know, a VP executive of technology companies. Are you still like doing performing and also business? Like, tell us a little bit about where you're at today, Deborah.
Yeah, I am still performing and doing more and more of it. It's like I'm coming into this whole new Phoenix rising out of a career that kind of got halted there for a while. And I'm excited about that, and very excited about that. Like I said, there's a lot going on, and I would love to just blah 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 about it, but right now I can't, so I won't.
Is there anything that you can share with us?
Yeah, I'm going to, and so yeah, so I'm doing a lot of performing around town. I'm doing filming a live TV show in October, which is going to be a concert, full band.
This is in Nashville.
This is in Nashville, but ultimately it's going to be broadcast and stuff. So I'll definitely keep you posted on all of that. But that's really fun, and it's going to be the first time for me, because I've played as a solo artist here for years. That where I really have I have my guitar player that I've been playing with and writing with now for a few years, but we're having the full band come together, which is really cool and very exciting. And the music, it's like, this is not what I would call an industry interpretation. This is our interpretation. It's Swampabilly gospel blues. That's the genre. So I've grown a lot as an artist, and really truly kind of more going under the name of Bishop than anything else. And Bishop is sort of and because it speaks a little bit more to my personal evolution, you know, so I really like that. So that's happening. I do consultations with people. I do energy work with people. And energy is really just the foundation. Energy is in the music that I do. Energy is in the performances that I give. I have been a speaker for years, and I've gone around and spoke, and I use music and comedy actually a lot when I speak. And I have my private practice, which I love. I adore my clients. And I adore what I do. I'm very passionate about it. And in the end, the ideal client for me is literally, yes, an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur, but individuals who really truly have just gotten to a place where they've kind of done everything and they've done it right, and they've done everything, they've done it right, but they still wake up kind of wondering why. I'm doing all of this, I've done all of this, I'm practicing all of these things, I'm showing up. Often they're working incredibly hard, much harder than they really need to. And they're tired, they're exhausted. They know that continuing to do it like that is not going to serve them. Those are the people that I work with, because I can help them to change that channel, to completely change that channel, because it literally has to do with how they're wired. And when we rewire, which doesn't take that long, and it's permanent, which is really kind of cool. I have watched hundreds of people blossom and thrive in such incredible ways. And I'm so grateful for that. And I call that my vocation. So those are all things that I'm doing, and just, my art and just
Wonderful.
The totems and stuff. It's like I'm attempting to bring, and I am bringing everything together. It's a slow process. You said at the beginning, you do so much, and I do, and I can't help it. I don't know how not to. But I will tell you this, it's not always as amazing as one might think. Sometimes it's a real challenge because you're being pulled in too many directions. And the one thing I would say that if I knew now, right, if I knew then what I know now, I would probably be a little bit more focused on specific things, as opposed to just being like, woohoo, but at the same time, I have no regret. I have no regret that I had an interactive entertainment company or any of these businesses that I've had, any of these experiences, any of these shows, anything that I've done. There are no regrets. It's just the realization of waking up one day and going, for everything I've done, it's time. It's time to have that next level of success and that next level of freedom in my life personally. And with that has come all of these scenarios. In taking that ownership has come all of these opportunities that are suddenly like bringing me full circle into this place where it's no longer about being segmented. It's no longer about, doing this but not doing that. It's about really authentically being who I am and continuing to just simply show up.
I love that. I heard so much there. One of them was about doing a lot versus getting focused. But then if you hadn't been multi-passionate or multi-passions entrepreneur, you may not have understood where you need to focus to and find your authenticity. I think one of the things that I've learned and that I speak about in everything that I do is about being a passion leader. And a passion leader comes from really following what you really love. And if you're following what you love that is multi-passionate, that's still being authentic.
Right.
But you did touch on something there about being able to your next level of freedom is what you said, when you can start to focus. And I think that just is like an evolution for you. I see this as an evolution of all of these things that you're able to do, that you've been able to do, that you've been passionate about, now is coming together for your next you. I can see it now for you, even like was coming together, but it's because of all the things that you've done and all the things that you've learned is now coming into this one authentic self, which is all of it, but more concise, more framed, more articulate, more authentic even than before. You're talking about the name that you come out with as an artist and who you are and getting clear and showing the world. it's so powerful. You're so strong and so powerful and so talented, Deborah. It's just
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have a conversation with you. I totally get you.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual, my friend.
Good thing.
Truly.
So we're going to end on one of your songs, but before we do, I did spew off a website and social at the beginning of the podcast, but where would you like folks to find out more about you that you'd like them to see?
Well, welcome to Bishop World. Yes, they can get there by DeborahBishop.com too, or RevDebBishop.com. It'll all take you to the same place. But welcome to Bishop World kind of lets you know it is really a world, and it's the world that I run, or that I'm in charge of. And there's a lot of information there.
That's wonderful. And we're going to end on this music called Peace Be. Can you want to tell us a little bit about it before we go there?
Yeah, Peace Be is it's a very chill, it's kind of like a little bit of a hypnotic kind of tune, but it's very much like the peace background. It's very much sort of a platform for me. It's really a situation of just going, if it were possible, wouldn't it be amazing to, it's like the first line is, if I could, if I could, I would silence all the angry words and give up the fight. It's this whole idea of just peace be. Peace out here only starts when we have peace inside. So this song is very much about that journey, about having peace inside and out.
Wonderful. All right. Well, this is Deborah Bishop and her song Peace Be. And thank you so much, Deborah, for coming today to my Entrepreneur Podcast, the Creative Entrepreneur Podcast. You're truly an entrepreneur, and I'm so happy to have you on my journey as well. So
thank you, honey.
Thank you.
Come and join us at TheCrea8ve.com, TheCrea8ve.com, or find us on social. Or find me, Gilli Moon. See you soon.
If I could, I'd make it all alright. I'd silence all the angry words and give up the fight. I know you don't understand, and sometimes we don't agree. But brother, could you lend a hand to the likes of me? I have no weapon. I come in peace, and I'm with you down the dark and lonely streets. I hold no anger. I offer love. I come in peace. I can feel the pain, seems to be everywhere. But just because I don't take it on, that don't mean I don't care. It's been such a long road to get to where I am, but I'd gladly show you every turn if you just
I hold no anger. I offer love. I believe in love. Peace be. Peace be. Peace be. Peace be. I have no weapon. I come in peace, and I'm with you down the dark and lonely street. I hold no anger. I offer love. I come in peace.